Well, hey, how are you? Oh, come on now. I didn't come all the way from Omaha, Nebraska for that. I heard one So let's try this again. How are we doing today? Doing all right? That's much better. I need you to know right up front, I need some energy today. I don't do this where I just kind of sit here and talk. If you came expecting to be entertained today, where you get to sit back in your nice theater seat and just kind of sit there and relax, that's not how we roll, okay? That's not how I roll. So I'm going to need some crowd participation today. We're all in this together, okay? We're all in this together. Everybody understand that? Okay, awesome. You guys are already better than the first service. I'm kidding. They were awesome. Some of you were really proud of that, and you guys can fight about that. That's fine. I want to tell you, I've been here before. I was here last November, I believe it was, right before Christmas. I got to tell you, I'm friends with most all of your staff. Specifically, I really spent a lot of time with Nathan and Jamie. Through college, Nathan and I go way, way back. He's actually hired me a couple times and then left me at both those spots. So I'm not bitter at all, not one bit. But I will tell you this: if you want some dirt on him, I've got all the dirt you need. So if you want to figure out a way to get him fired, to send him to Omaha, Nebraska, feel free to do that. I would love to get to work with that guy again. But for real, I respect this staff so much. I respect the people, and so by proxy, I don't know all of you very well, but I know that if they speak very highly of you, I also speak very highly of you. So thank you so much. If you are a guest here today, can I just tell you found it? You found the second best thing in Danville. Second best thing in Danville. You might ask the question, what's the first best thing in Danville? I ate at it yesterday. Asia Walk? Yeah? It's number one. You guys are close too, so good job. But for real, if you're a guest here, man, you found it. You really did. This is such an incredible church, an incredible staff who love Jesus wholeheartedly. And so I hope that you would give this a chance next week. You might today go man, that guy talked too fast. He was really, really short, and he had a lot of energy, and I need somebody slower talker. I need somebody a little bit taller, looks kind of the same. He's here next week, so Nathan will be back next week. So feel free to come back next week and get a chance to listen to him. We've been wrapping up this series called Dog Days of Summer. And the premise behind this series is that there are 7 pursuits in 2 Peter chapter 1, 7 pursuits that if we would just pursue these 7 things, that we would grow in our faith. And so over the course of the last 6 weeks, you've looked at these. Let me read them for you just so we're all on the same page. Everybody gets to start at the same spot today. 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 5 through 7 says these words. It says, "For this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith." And these are where we start to build from these the last 6 weeks. "Goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance, and to perseverance godliness, and to godliness mutual affection love." Everybody say love. Love. Now, when you think of the word love, maybe perhaps you go to a movie, maybe a rom-com. You go back to a rom-com, maybe like Jerry Maguire, You Had Me at Hello, or You Complete Me, right? Or maybe you go into It's a Wonderful Life. What do you want? The moon? I'll get the moon for you. That whole thing. Or maybe you think of a song. When you think of love, you think of a song "What is love? Baby, don't," right? Now listen, I didn't come all the way here to sing alone, okay? I'm not in some karaoke bar right now. I'm at church, so you're going to sing with me, all right? So here we go. Ain't no mountain. Not everybody did it. We're going to do that. Guys, I got all day. My flight's not until 4 o'clock, okay? All right? Ain't no mountain. Ain't no valley. Yeah, some of you younger kids are I have never heard that song in my life, right? Maybe you got this one right. And some of you really want to do the I part, so we're all going to do it together, okay? I know some of you came for this moment, this is your chance. You're ready to audition for Jeff right now. So here we go. Everybody on the count of 3, we're going with that big I, right? 1, 2, 3. And I. Only one person is auditioning right now. Hey, you're on the worship team though, brother, okay? Okay? You can have Jeff's guitar. I think he's got a pedal board that's yours, okay? You get it, all right? Everybody, that was a joke. Everybody else knew it was happening, and you were stop, this guy's going to do it. This is the 3rd best place in Danville now. You guys are rude, all right? Think of love. It's not you guys. But Whitney Houston, Adele, Justin Bieber, Garth Brooks, Boyz II Men, they all sing about love. But I got to tell you, love is not a song, and love is not a movie. No, love has a name. And we look no further than the name in the face of Jesus Christ. There is nobody who embodies love more than Jesus. And if you were to try and live and love like him, you would be everybody's best friend. Everybody would like you. In fact, at my church, the church that I serve at, we've got a mantra. It's our mission, it's our vision, it's our values. It's everything is encompassed in this one phrase. We exist to live and love like Jesus. And I often will tell people, hey, in your best relationships, if you would just live and love like Jesus, chances are your relationship's going to be just fine if you could just live and love like Jesus. In fact, Paul says it this way in 1 Corinthians. He says, do everything in love. Not some things. Do everything in love. Now, it can be really easy for me today to say, love one another, let's pray, and let's go home. But the truth of the matter is that that's not who we are. Most of us, if we were really to be honest with ourselves, we're not that loving of a people. How do I know that? I know that because of social media, right? Like, you've been on social media. We are rude, we're self-centered, we're punks, and those are the nicest terms that I can use to get invited back. For real, we are not loving people. But for those of us who call ourselves followers of Jesus, and if you're not a follower of Jesus, it's a great day for you to be here. It's a great day for you to be here because you get to peek behind the curtain to see just for a second what God calls us to. But for those of us that are followers of Jesus, we are called to be known for our extravagant love towards other people. And fortunately, the church gets this right all the time, doesn't it? Wrong. In fact, most of your hurt, most of your pain probably comes from people who would call themselves followers of Jesus. And so how do we love? Last week we talked about who to love. Today we get to talk about how to love. And so you might ask the question, how do we go about loving like Jesus? If we're truly going to live and love like Jesus, how do we do that? I'm so glad you asked. Jesus gives us a perfect example. In Luke chapter 7, he gives us a perfect example. So if you have your Bible, I'd encourage you to get it out, get it open. Luke chapter 7. How many of you are paper Bible people? I just need to know. My paper Bible people? Yeah. A couple of you, all right. How many of you are like tablet Bible people? You brought your phone and so you're ready to go? Okay. How many of you are Skyble people? You're going to watch it from the sky? Yeah. Okay. That's fair too. All right. Here we go. Just need to know who I'm talking to. Luke chapter 7, starting in verse 36, it says this. It says, one of the Pharisees, his name is Simon. Okay. Everybody say Simon. All right. Everybody, we're going to get there. Okay. Simon, he's a Pharisee. He invites Jesus to have dinner with him. He went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. So this guy, Simon, comes to Jesus and says, hey, man, you want to come over for dinner tonight? Now, here's what you need to know. Pharisees and Jesus did not see eye to eye. Pharisees and Jesus did not get along. In fact, the Pharisees were just trying to trick and trap Jesus. That's all they wanted to do. And so him inviting Jesus over for dinner is not a pleasantry. Him inviting Jesus over for dinner is not this, hey, let's kind of make amends and let's have dinner tonight and maybe we can be friends after this is over. No. He is trying to trick and trap Jesus. And so he says, hey, Jesus, why don't you come over for dinner tonight? Now, my guess is that he expected that Jesus was going to say, no way, man, not going to do that. I know what you're trying to do, and I don't want to do that. Instead, Jesus says, what you making? I'll be there. Verse 37, a woman in that town who lived a sinful life. Another translation says she's an adulterous woman. A woman in that town who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. And so she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. Now, let's hit pause for a second because you might go, okay, so Simon invites Jesus over to his house for dinner. Jesus goes. How does this woman just get to waltz into this party? See, it was customary in that day that the poor people of that area could actually go to any party and sit along the wall. And while they're seated along the wall, the rich people, or the people who had the party going on, would throw scraps at them. It was their way of taking care of the poor. And so she isn't invited, but she's able to go in. And I would imagine that when she walks into the room, the music stops. I mean, she's a sinful woman. She's an adulterous woman. She walks into the room and she comes in with different intentions than everybody else who's there. I mean, there's people there who are trying to trick and trap Jesus. There's people there waiting to get scraps thrown at them, but she comes in with a completely different motive. Verse 38. As she stood behind him, that's Jesus, as she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. And then she wiped them with her hair and kissed them and poured the expensive perfume on his feet. Now, hit pause for a second again. I don't know about you, but I'm weirded out by this scene. Right? Like, it's a weird scene. In our day and age, this woman comes in. Jesus is eating, right? We don't know what he's eating, but he's eating something. And this woman comes in, and she's weeping and crying, and she goes behind Jesus, and she starts weeping and crying on his feet. And then she takes her hair and starts wiping his feet with her hair. I'm weirded out by that. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're like, that seems normal. That's Tuesdays at my house. Like, that's not Tuesdays at my house. Probably because I don't have hair, but it's just weird. Now, why is she weeping? My guess is she's weeping because of the shame that she's felt in her life. She knows who she is. She knows where she's been. She knows what everybody else thinks about her. But she doesn't care. Don't miss that. She doesn't care. Verse 39. Now when the Pharisee who invited him saw this, he said to himself, don't miss that. See, whenever you're in the presence of Jesus and you start saying stuff to yourself, Jesus is about ready to get you. He said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him, what kind of woman she is, that she is, everybody say it together, a sinner. Either Jesus is who he says that he is, well, he must not be. Because if he knew who he was and he knew who she was, he wouldn't let her come anywhere near him. She's a woman. In that day and age, that wouldn't have happened. She is crying. She is poor. She is also an adulterous woman, and she is touching him. Strike 3, strike 4, strike 5. She's out. He's out. There's no way this works. But Jesus is going to teach Simon and us a lesson in this. Because I don't know about you, but as you read this story, you might go like, she has no business being in the presence of Jesus. She has no business because of her past and because of what she's done, because of who she is. She's got no business. That's what Simon's thinking. That might be what we're thinking. There's no way. That might be how we think about people sometimes, right? People who are hard to love, people who live very sinful lives that we look at them and go, they have no business getting the grace and the mercy and the love of Jesus. No business at all. Or maybe you can relate to the woman. And you can go, you know what? I know my past. I know where I've been. I know my shame. I know my guilt. I know what I've carried. And if I could just get to the feet of Jesus and worship him there, without all these other people trying to figure out me and trying to figure out my life and trying to tell me that I'm disqualified for the grace, if I could just get to him. I want you to put yourself in this story. Actually immerse yourself in the story. Where do you find yourself? Because Jesus is about ready to unlock something for a lot of people. And maybe that's you. Verse 40. Jesus answered him. Remember, he didn't say anything out loud, but Jesus answered him. He said, Simon, I have something to tell you. Tell me, teacher, he asked. 2 people owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii, the other 50. Now, you don't have to understand denarii to know this. One owed 500, one owed 50. There's a lot and a little. Neither of them had the money to pay him back. And so he forgave both the debts. Now, which one will love him more? And Simon replied, said, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt, the 500. You have judged correctly, Jesus said. And then he turned toward the woman and he said to Simon, don't miss that. So do you see this woman? I came into your house, and you did not give me any water for my feet, but she has wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. He looks at Simon and says, or he looks at the woman and says to Simon, do you see this woman? Do you see her? I know you recognize her. I know you identified her when she walked in the room. I know that you probably turned your nose up when she walked in. You rolled your eyes when she came over towards me. I know you saw all of that, but do you actually see her? Church, to love people, we have to see people. We have to actually see them, to know their story, to know their background, to know the battle they're going through, to know the burden that they're carrying. To love people, we actually have to see people. A couple weeks ago, I was getting ready to take the afternoon off. My wife had asked me to come home because we were going to take the kids to the pool. So I was just taking the afternoon off, and I said, all right, I'll do that. And so I was getting in my car, packed up all my stuff, getting in my car. And while I was doing that, I get a phone call. From a guy named Alex. Now, I met Alex a few weeks before this. Alex plays football for a team called the Omaha Beef. It's weird, I know. It's a bad name. But they're an arena football team. I serve as a pastor to this arena football team. And so Alex calls me. He's never called me before, never asked for anything before, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the phone call. So I take it, and he says, hey, Ryan, I'm kind of in a pickle. So what's this pickle? He goes, well, I went to the gym, and the person who dropped me off at the gym left, and I don't have a ride from the gym back to my apartment. Can you come get me and give me a ride back to my apartment? I'm like, I guess. Okay, like, Alex, where are you? Tell me where you are so that I can figure out how far away I am from you. So he gives me like the area that he's in, and I put it up in maps, and I go there, and I'm 35 minutes away from Alex. I'm like, this is a distraction. Like, this is out of the way. I need to go home and get my kids to the pool, but I'll do that later. Let's just do this. Let's figure out what. And so the whole time there, I'm like, God, open the door. Open the door for me to have the conversation with Alex about who you are and the grace that you have. And let me just begin to tell Alex about all of you. About 10 minutes into the drive, I get another phone call from Alex. And I'm thinking, okay, he's got picked up. That's fine. I can turn around and go take my kids to the pool. But he calls and I take it and he goes, hey, listen, I'm hungry. Do you mind swinging by Jimmy John's and grabbing me a sandwich? I'm like, cool. So now I'm an Uber driver and an Uber Eats driver. Here we go. And so I'm like, all right, whatever. And so I pull up to Alex, and he's standing outside waiting on me. He looks kind of impatient. And I'm like, bro, you got no reason to be impatient with me. And he's got headphones in, and he's on a phone call. And so I'm thinking, awesome. He's just going to get in my car, talk to whoever he's talking to the whole way to the apartment. I'm not going to get a chance. Thanks, God. I've been praying this prayer over and over and over again. Open a door for me, open a door for me, open a door for me. And he gets in my car, and he says, hey, let me call you back. Takes the earphones out, sets them in his little case. And he looks at me and goes, can I tell you my story? Church, if you want to put a ball on a tee for me, that's it. He says, let me tell you my story. I said, great, let's hear your story. I want to know who you are, Alex. I know nothing about you other than the fact that you got tattoos all over your face. That's all I know about you. He's a scary dude. He says, well, here's the deal. When I was going through high school, I made all the mistakes. I mean, I was into some stuff, and I censored that for you. Thank you. He said, I was going through some stuff. He said, at 18, I went to the penitentiary. Now, church, you got to do some stuff to go to the penitentiary at 18. At 24, he said, I got out. He's 25 now. He said, when I got out of the penitentiary, all my friends, all the people I ran with, they were all either dead or also in jail someplace else. And I realized I needed to get my life back in order. He said, in high school, I was a pretty good football player, and so I just kind of went to the gym and started working out and trying to get myself better so that I could find myself on a team like this so that maybe I could turn my life around. And I just listened to this story the whole way back going, all right, give me an open door, give me an open door, give me an open door. We pull up to the apartment, and he says, hey, Ryan, can I just tell you one thing before I get out? And I said, yeah, you tell me anything, man. He goes, when you came to practice the first day, and you said, hey, call me if you ever need anything, I thought it was lip service. I thought there was no way this guy actually means this. There's no way. But I was in a pickle, and I called a lot of people today. And you're the only one that picked up, and you're the only one that said yes. And then when I called back for a sandwich, that was a test. And I'm like, of course it was, bro. I said, I just wanted to know. I wanted to know to what length you were willing to go today. And he brought me a sandwich. And he goes, whoever this Jesus guy is that you're trying to sell me on or talk to me about all the time, like, I want you to know, like, I'm all in. I'm all ears. Because if he looks anything like you, I'm all in. And I looked at Alex and I'm like, listen, he looks nothing like me. He's so much better than me. He would have brought you 2 Jimmy John sandwiches, right? But it was one of those moments where I realized, like, in that moment, that small distraction that caused me to kind of go out of my way for just a second to show him love. He had never seen Jesus in his life. No one has ever actually shown him love like that. And just that small token of, I'll pick you up and I'll give you a sandwich, showed him who Jesus was. And here's the truth, church. If you saw Alex in a dark alley somewhere, you would run. Or if you saw him in a dark alley, you would run away. He is all sorts of tatted up. He is a scary, scary, scary looking dude. But when you start to hear his story, and you understand the battle he's going through, he's so much easier to love. When you actually see him, he's easier to love. Galatians chapter 6, verse 2 says it this way. Share each other's burdens, and in this way, you'll obey the law of Christ. What's the law of Christ? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. The second is as important as the first. That we need to love our neighbor as ourselves, meaning we need to share each other's burdens. And when I don't know your burden, it's a whole lot easier to not share it, right? When I know nothing about you, it's a whole lot easier for me to say, all right, I don't need to love you because I don't know anything about you. But if we actually see people the way that Jesus is asking Simon to see this woman, do you actually see her? It's a whole lot easier to love people like that. Now, here's my hope. My hope is at this point in the message, you've started to think through your life who you don't see. Who's the person that you try not to see? Who's the person at your workplace, at the gym, in your neighborhood, in your family, wherever it might be? Maybe it's Walmart. I don't know where it is. Who's the person for you that when you see them, you're like, oh, I hope they don't see me. Because if they see me, I got to love them, and I don't want to love them because I'm a follower of Jesus, and the follower of Jesus I'm supposed to love because this guy came to church today, and he told me I'm supposed to love this person. I don't want to love this person. I want to look away. Who's that person for you? My hope is that the Holy Spirit started to convict for you, hey, this person's pretty difficult for you, or this person is somebody that you've said, man, I just can't understand them. I don't want to understand them, and you're thinking, this guy can shut up now because I don't want to be convicted today when I leave church. Who's that person for you? Because for me, there's so many people in my life that when I start thinking of that person or those people, I start thinking the reason I can't love them is because I'm just too busy. So here's the truth, church. Love and hurry are not compatible. Love and hurry are not compatible. I don't know about you, but I pack my calendar full of event after meeting after meeting after meeting after event, after game, after this, after that, so that I don't have the margin. I mean, even when I go to a grocery store, I don't have the margin when I go in a grocery store. I got my head down, I put a hat on, I go in with Jason Bourne intensity. And you think I'm trying to solve a mystery or a crime? No, I'm just looking for gluten-free noodles. That's all I'm doing. Love and hurry are not compatible. A few years ago, we just moved to Omaha. Just moved there, and we were trying to figure life out and trying to figure some things out. And when we got there, we started to really kind of get behind this mantra of to live and love like Jesus. And so I was getting ready to preach a message at my church about this whole thing of living and loving like Jesus. How are we going to actually live this out? How are we going to embody this? And so I said, before we can actually go to the stage and talk about it, I've got to be someone who lives and loves like Jesus on a regular basis. I've got to take my calendar and kind of scrap it down and actually have time for interruptions, like the Alex story, have time for myself to say, okay, I want to live and love like him. How does this look? And so I started praying a prayer every single day before I woke up. God, show me who to love today. God, would you just make it obvious? Would you make it abundantly clear? Because I am oblivious to a lot of people a lot of times. So God, make it abundantly clear for me. Who am I supposed to love today? And I'll never forget the first day that I prayed that prayer. It was a Tuesday morning. Before my feet hit the ground, I said, God, show me who to love. And my feet hit the ground, and now I was ready to go. I mean, I prayed this prayer. God's just going to like make a beaming light to say like, this is who you should love. And it's going to be a great day. And I'm going to love them well. And I'm going to baptize everybody that I come in contact. It's going to be the greatest day of my life, right? Because I prayed this prayer. Well, the morning goes on and it really didn't like reveal anything to me. After lunch, I was leading a meeting for our entire staff. So about 35 members of our staff, I'm leading this meeting and my wife calls. Ignore the phone call. She calls again. Ignore. I'm leading a meeting, honey. Calls again. I'm like, all right, she's called 3 times. What's going on? So I tell the staff, I'm like, hey, coffee talk in 5 minutes. So I grab my phone, I go to the lobby, and I say, hey, what's going on? She goes, we're broke down. Can you come get us? I'm like, oh, this is a big deal. Okay. God told me, I said, who should I love today? And obviously it's my wife. Cool. My wife and my kids. So I get in my car. I head down where they are. I arrive there at a library that day. We homeschool. And so they're able to go do whatever they want all the time. It's the life, by the way. And so they're at this library. So I go and I jump the van. And then we go to an auto parts store to find out what's wrong with it, to run the diagnostics to figure out what's wrong with it. Well, when we run the diagnostics, we realize like this thing has to go to a mechanic like right now. And so I said, hey, Jesus told me to love whoever is in my way today, so I'm going to love this mechanic, and I'm going to love my wife. So, honey, where would you like to take the van today? We're new to the area. We know nothing about the area. I said, who would you like to take the van to today? And she goes, actually, somebody was at the house today who fixed something at the house. And they left me a business card, and on the back side of that business card is actually a mechanic. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like, God is just like giving us people to love, like right in our path. And I said, okay, where's this mechanic shop? And she goes, I don't know. I said, how do you not know that? And she goes, well, the business card's back at the house. Awesome. So we jump the van again, and we head back home. We arrive at the house. She runs in to get the business card. As she runs in to get the business card, guess what happens to the van? It dies again. Okay, you catch on. Okay, it dies again in the driveway. As the van is dead in the driveway, I'm now jumping the van. She comes back out, and we're ready to go at this point. Now, let me give you some context as to where I live in Omaha. I live directly across the street from a elementary school. It is now 3:30. Anybody want to guess what happens around 3:30 across the street from an elementary school? Anybody want to guess? Parent pickup is what happens. Now, if you've ever been by an elementary school and seen the house across the street and thought to yourself, what idiot would live across the street from an elementary school? We're that idiot, okay? So there are cars everywhere. We can't get out. We can't get out. We can't get out. The van dies again in the driveway. At this point, I'm like, hey, honey, maybe we should give up. Maybe we should just let the van live in our driveway forever and we never have to deal with it again. Like, I'm done with this thing. Let's be done. And she's like, no, we're getting this fixed today. And I'm like, I'm supposed to love people today. So yes, let's do this. So we find an opening in the spot where she can pull out. So she pulls out and heads on. Couple cars later, I get a chance to get out, and so I take off. Here we go. We're ready to go love our mechanic. About a block away from our house, this kid named LeBron, he's 16 years old, was on his cell phone. He comes flying up behind me, does not even look up to see that I am at a stoplight, and he smashes into the back of my car. Airbag deploys on him. He is car is totaled. His car is totaled. My wife, who's a couple cars in front, sees all of this happen. She jumps out of the van, parks the van in the middle of the road, right? The van dies there, obviously. She comes running back, "Are you okay?" Whole thing. LeBron gets out of his car, looks at me and yells, "No cops!" Oh boy. I don't know why you don't want cops here, LeBron, but your car is totaled. We got to call the cops. And he says, "Okay, here's why I don't want to call the cops. I skipped school today. And if my parents know where I'm at, they're never going to let me drive again." I'm like, probably shouldn't be driving anyway. And he's like, "They're probably never going to let me drive again. They're probably going to ground me forever. I skipped school today, and I don't want to face the wrath of my parents. And so if we can just say this accident happened someplace else, then I don't have to deal with that." I'm like, no, LeBron. Your car is undrivable, bud. We got to call the cops. So we call the cops. Cop shows up. He's just started the shift, so he's excited to be there. So I'm loving on the cop. I'm loving on LeBron. LeBron is nervous about his parents showing up. He's crying a little bit. His dad shows up. His dad is angry. His mom is angry. It's a whole thing. And I'm like, God, why was today the day that I prayed this prayer? All the while, I'm just trying not to cuss. So I just want to get to the mechanic. That's all I want to do. I just need to God told me I need to love the mechanic. That's all I'm trying to do. Well, finally, all that gets done. We're now on our way to go love the mechanic. And on the way to go love the mechanic, the van dies one more time. Except this time, it dies just on an interchange right outside of I-80. Now, you don't need to know enough about Omaha to know there's one street in all of Omaha that matters at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday. You know what street it is? I-80. And so there are cars everywhere around us. I can't get up and around to jump my wife, and so I'm right behind her. And so all I can do is turn hazards on, get out of my car, and go stand behind my car to direct traffic to hope that maybe, just maybe, one other person in the entire universe prayed the exact same prayer that I prayed that day. So I'm standing there directing traffic, and people are giving me this cool little wave. It's a new wave. Maybe you've heard of it. They give me the one-finger salute, "Hey, you're the best, buddy." I'm like, "Yeah, I am. I'm great." My wife is in the van crying, "Why'd I marry him?" It's a whole thing. All the while, I'm just waiting. It's starting to rain now. The weather has turned. It's raining. And this one guy in a red pickup truck makes eye contact with me. As he makes eye contact with me, I'm like, oh, this is the guy. This guy prayed the prayer. He makes eye contact with me, and he's looking at me, and he's nodding like, "You cannot wait to see this." And I'm like, "No, I cannot wait to see this." And he does this U-turn. It's the best U-turn I've ever seen, full 360. I swear that he pulls the hatch on his hood. His hood pops open. The jumper cables come out of his car and directly attached to mine, all in one motion. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen. Jumps the van, takes off. I never talked to him. A couple weeks later, I'm preaching, so we get the van to the mechanic. Yay, we got to the mechanic. A couple weeks later, you're like, that story was forever long. It's fine. I got 45 minutes, Nathan said. So I get done preaching one week, and I walk off stage, and this guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, did you get your van fixed?" And I'm like, "You're not LeBron. You're not the cop. You're not, who are you? You're not my mechanic. Who are you?" He goes, "I was the guy in the red pickup truck." I was like, "You were the U-turn guy?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Can I just ask you a question?" I said, why did you stop? Did you recognize me? And he goes, "I didn't know who you were. You look sad." I'm like, "Yes, I did. You got me." I said, "I didn't recognize you, but I know that if Jesus had time for interruptions, I have time for interruptions." Church, Jesus had time for this interruption with this woman. That's why he says in verse 45, "You did not give me a kiss, but this woman from the time I entered the home has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven. As great as love as she has shown, but whoever is forgiven little loves little." Jesus is comparing two people right here, Simon and the woman. And he's saying, you're both approaching life in very different ways. You see her as flawed. I see her as forgiven. You see her as a failure, but I see her future. Jesus saw her hope and said, maybe today is the day that she turns her life around, like my friend Alex. See, as you're going about your day, your business, whatever it is for you, I want you to ask yourself this question. When you find yourself going, "Man, I can't love this person," ask yourself this question. What's keeping me from loving this person? What's keeping me from seeing this person? Because if I see him, I can love him. So here's the truth. I believe there are two types of people in this world. The people who wake up in the morning and say, "Good morning, Lord," and the people who wake up in the morning and say, "Good Lord, it's morning." And we should love everybody in between. We have to love everybody in between. So here's the challenge for you this week. Who do you need to love this week? Who's the one person in your life that when you think about it, who's the one person you absolutely have to love? Intentionally love them. To go out of your way to love them. Practically. To show them the grace and the mercy and the love that Jesus has for them. Who is that person for you? My hope is that this week you will actually live that out. To say, okay, if I'm going to live like Jesus, I need to love like Jesus. If that's the only example of Jesus that people get is mine, then I need to actually love like him. Last story and I'll be done. A couple weeks ago, I was directing an event called CIY Move. It was the largest event that CIY does. It was in Lincoln, Nebraska, 2,400 students. It was Thursday night, and on Thursday night, it was kind of like this forgiveness night. It's a big forgiveness night where the speaker comes out and talks about this idea of who we need to forgive and why we need to forgive them. And then I come up on stage, and I do this element at the end of the night, and then everybody's supposed to respond. And it's an incredible night. It's an incredible conference. The whole thing's happening, and I'm watching all of this happen, and I go to the lobby, and the moment I step foot in the lobby, I get incredibly discouraged. There's this one girl in the lobby all by herself playing on her cell phone. She sees me, makes eye contact with me, and starts beelining towards me, and I'm like, oh, what is happening? And she walks up to me, and she says, "Hey, you got a cell phone charger?" I'm like, what in the world? There are 2,300 other students in this room making decisions right now, and you've been playing Farmville in the lobby for the last hour. I don't know what she was doing. Farmville is like the best bet. I'm like, what are you doing? She said, I need a phone charger. My phone's dying. At this point, I'm just curious. Because I'm fairly angry at the moment in this girl. I don't know her at all, but I'm fairly angry because I'm like, you missed out on an incredible night. Tell me what's going on. She said, I need a phone charger. I said, okay. You need a phone? I got a phone. You can use my phone. What do you need a phone for? She said, well, I'm waiting on a phone call. I said, no, you can use my phone. It's fine. You can use it. I'm curious. She said, no, the phone has to be my phone. Okay, I'll bite. Why? She goes, well, my mom's in jail. She's in jail for life. For 6 months, she gets 1 day a month to call me. For 6 months, she's called, and I've ignored it every time. And today's the day she's supposed to call. And I don't know if she'll call me because, like I said, I've ignored it for 6 times. But if she does call today, I need a full phone. Because I want to tell her that I forgive her and that Jesus loves her. Church, there were some allergies in the lobby that day. I don't know what was going on. My eyes started watering. It was weird. As I listened to this probably 16-year-old girl tell me about the way she grew up, how she grew up, and what her mom has done. And church, I got to tell you, it absolutely broke my heart. I go to my bag, I get my phone charger out, and I'm yelling at myself in my own mind, what are you doing? Why'd you do that? Why are you angry at this girl? Hand her my phone charger, and I say, hey, when you're done, can we talk? She said, yeah. So she gets done talking to her mom and comes over, and I say, hey, tell me about that. What happened in that moment? She said, well, I had a chance to forgive my mom. And I told my mom that Jesus loves her, and she said, thanks. That was kind of the end of the conversation. I said, well, tell me about you. What's going on with you? And she said, honestly, I came to this dumb conference, that's what she called it, because my mom did that, and I went and lived with these parents that aren't really my parents, and it's the whole thing, and I don't really like them, but they jumped through every hoop and every hoop and every hoop to get me to come to this dumb conference. She goes, and this dumb conference changed my life. Maybe for you, you know your past like this girl knew her past. Maybe you thought you're disqualified like she thought she was disqualified. The whole time she went through that conference with us, she continued to say, I don't belong here. I don't want to be here. I'm disqualified from this. Those were the words she was speaking over herself throughout that entire week. But I got to tell you, she was baptized at the end of the week. She gave her life to Jesus. She's one of those stories I will tell a long time down the road. Because here's a girl who thought, there's no way Jesus loves me. There's no way Jesus loves me. But in a room of 2,400 other students, she got to experience the love of Jesus. Maybe that's you today. And maybe you need to experience the love of Jesus. If that's you, I want you to scan the QR code that's on the screen. Or you can talk to me after the message. I'll be right down here. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to pray with you. I know Nathan would as well. I know Sean would. I know Brian would. In fact, if you want to talk to Jeff, just come up and interrupt him. He's fine. If you want to know about the love of Jesus, I got to tell you, it expands whatever boundaries you've put on it. It's so much greater than whatever you've tried to say. There's no way he can. No, it doesn't matter what you've done. Doesn't matter what you've been. Doesn't matter what you've said. Doesn't matter any of that. He loves you. And so for those of us that are followers of Jesus, we need to give that same love to other people. We need to show the love of Jesus to others because we never know what showing that love could do for others. Would you love this week? Not because some bald guy told you to, but because Jesus called you to. Let's pray. God, I thank you. I thank you for today. I thank you for the opportunity that we have to love you and to love others through you. And so, God, allow us as we leave this place, as we go back into our homes and our neighborhoods and our families and our friends and wherever it is that we find ourselves every single day, that we would love others to show them your love. We love you. We thank you. In your name we pray. Amen.